Hello everyone, welcome to this first live stream today on our Awareness Mondays. So I'm just going to wait a little bit and see. It's my first live stream today, and I'm just still, figuring out how it all works. And yeah, I'm just going to wait a little bit and see if more people are jumping on this stream. And I can see if you're already there. I'm not quite sure how to see who it is. Good morning, Jenna. Welcome. Yeah, so we've created just maybe a few words while more people hopefully jumping on. We created this group, the Mind Your Karma community, really as a space to share and provide valuable resources and educational podcasts, and yeah, it's a source of inspiration that we want to create here on this platform. And part of this are the Awareness Mondays, which is all about dropping in, tapping in, and saying, whatever the topic is, whatever's going on in your life, and whatever I'm going to talk about, how that can enhance or, expand your life experience. So obviously today the topic is stress and feeling overwhelmed. So it's something that most of us are probably quite aware of and have experienced every now and then over the course of our lives. So in a few moments I'm going to delve a little bit deeper into what is that, what happens when we do feel stressed and overwhelmed within our bodies, and how can we actually invite a little bit more ease into dealing with all the demands that we have on a daily basis and in our lives. Yeah. So just a few words about myself. My name is Kati, and I'm the founder of the Mind Your Karma Retreat and Self-Development Center in Mount Maunganui, New Zealand. And my background is I'm a psychologist as well as a yoga teacher, and I use quite a bit of energy healing modes and modalities to work, with the people I work with. And so very much combining different tools and modalities to manage the big and small question marks that we can have over the course of our lives. And part of that oftentimes is stress. So what I'm going to talk about today very much also incorporates all those different angles that I'm coming from in my capacity as a psychologist, but also as a workshop facilitator and healing facilitator, very much so. If you have any questions over the course of this first Awareness Monday, just send me a comment, and I have figured it out now how it all works, so I can see your comments. And if you have any questions, just let me know over the course of the talk. And other than that, over the course of the next 15 minutes or so, we're going to talk about stress and feeling overwhelmed. Yeah, so basically why I chose that topic to start with on our first live stream here is because it's something that basically is with us every day. It's surrounding us. Stress, it's within us, we can feel it. And I've been tuning in this morning, about, okay, how am I going to talk to you about that topic, because all of us kind of like know what it is. And, listening to my own experiences with stress and feeling overwhelmed, and listening to the people I work with and they feel stressed and overwhelmed, oftentimes it's that, that experience of, it's a vicious cycle basically, you wake up in the morning and you may not feel completely rested, but the moment you wake up, you feel, all those thoughts and worries and, mind chatter kicking in about what's going to come. And then, the moment you get up, you kind of like already feel overwhelmed, basically, by whatever your to-do list is demanding from you. And before you know it, you kind of like are in that cycle of, oh my God, how am I going to get through this day? How am I going to, tick all those boxes that I have to tick? And, before you know it, you have activated a cycle or, a mechanism within you that overproduces basically a hormone called cortisol. And most of you may know that, but this is, very pivotal hormone when it comes to stress. It's, it's a hormone that's being released when we feel stressed, and that's okay. If we, we all go through phases of stress, and and then it's this cycle of going up and down. But the problems start kicking in when we overproduce this hormone, cortisol, because it's very much associated with, all sorts of physical issues. For example, such as blood sugar imbalances, decreased bone density, lowered immunity, exhaustion. It's exhausting to overproduce this hormone. And that's why when we chronically feel stressed and overwhelmed with, the demands of our lives, it's very much, a matter of depleting our own more psyches, but also bodies, basically. And actually, cortisol is also associated with increased abdominal fat. It's probably interesting to hear for the women amongst us, because oftentimes when we feel stressed, we actually kind of like gather that abdominal fat, and that's quite a dangerous area to store that fat, because abdominal fat is associated with heart attacks and also strokes. And that's quite interesting to know, especially for those around us that have stress with, for example, weight loss, wanting to lose weight. That is a particular topic in itself. So basically, what happens when we are in the cycle of, constantly feeling like we're not catching up, we're rushing through the day, everything is becoming a more like a reaction to what's happening to us, and we're not actually feeling like being in the flow of the experiences that are coming to us on a daily basis. We're more feeling like reacting and, erratically kind of like rushing around and always feeling like not really catching up. We have this cortisol overproduction, and basically constantly the fight flight mechanism activated within us, and that's why it feels so exhausting, because when we are in fight flight, which basically is a mode of our nervous system, and our brain keeps getting the message we're not safe, we can't relax until something is done or everything is done. We're constantly in fight flight, and that's basically our resource using mode, and not our resource replenishing mode. And so the resource replenishing mode is the so-called parasympathetic activation, which is our rest and digest system, which we very much need in order to, replenish all sorts of resources. When I talk about resources, I mean our physical resources, in order to feel vital and energized and rested, basically. And also I'm talking about our emotional and mental resources, Yeah, and all of that needs to be replenished and rested on a regular basis for us to not feel overwhelmed and exhausted and drained constantly, or what sometimes we also call burned out. And that's a pretty challenging, it can be a pretty challenging task to do over the course of our week or over the course of our day, because we have so many things around us. We have so many things that we want to, need to, and sometimes maybe feel we need to attend to. And all sorts of different aspects, intertwined with that. There might be, for example, a tendency towards perfectionism, that we feel we have to do everything right, or there might be, all sorts of unhelpful, well, more so even unrecognized thinking patterns behind that. I can't, for example, that idea or that thought, that belief, I can't relax before everything is done in a certain way, So it's a challenging task to actually, or can be, to bring more balance and ease into our stress experience and the way we experience it. Because when we're right in it, when we're right in that fight flight mode and state, meaning in this reactive state where we feel like things are happening to us and not actually through us. Yeah, we're not really feeling like we're part of what's happening. It's more like happening to us, and we're rushing around and being thrown in between, and basically being thrown off center. That's how it feels on the inside. It seems challenging to get back into that balance and center and be like, yeah, but how can I drop my to-dos and actually get back into a more easeful, or at least neutral state of being, yeah, which is very much what it feels like when we are in that so-called parasympathetic mode, which is our rest and digest mode, our receiving mode. Yeah, because we know we need to be in a receptive mode when we want to receive healing, relaxation, or replenishment, basically. So in my point of view, the first step to tap back into balance is to actually acknowledge what's going on. To acknowledge, and with acknowledgement always comes a certain degree of acceptance. Yeah, so for example, sitting there, in a mindful or just short little moment in between, and saying to yourself, wow, I'm actually really, really overwhelmed right now in this moment. And that's okay. And saying that to yourself, and it's a moment, it's about honesty, It's about acknowledging, hey, what's happening? I'm actually really, really angry with this person at work, for example, and that really upsets me and stresses me out. So that moment of just acknowledging that's what it is, because oftentimes in our very rushed world of today, in our modern world, where everything is so instant and so quick, information and this, like everything is really at a very rapid pace these days, and we oftentimes expect that from ourselves as well, not really honoring our own inner rhythm and pace and cycles anymore. So, and then oftentimes we just develop these ideas, that it's actually not okay to feel like that. It's not okay to feel stressed or overwhelmed more so, or, well, I have to feel stressed in order to perform well in my life, But still, it's still kind of like a certain degree of denial, what's actually happening inside. And that on top of the whole stress that we're already feeling and experiencing creates an additional stress, because not only are we worrying and anxious about what's, how to move through the day and get it all done and, be on track. Now we're actually also fighting ourselves and our actual experience of how it feels inside of us. And that creates an additional energy drain, basically, because suppressing feelings or avoiding or denying what actually really is going on costs us energy, a lot of energy. Yeah. And that's also the reason why we then try to find some sort of release, which is usually something along the lines like numbing what's happening. Yeah. So pointed would be binge watching on Netflix or comfort eating, binge eating, um, all sorts of substances like alcohol or other recreational drugs, So that's basically one attempt from us when we keep denying or avoiding our actual experience, our actual stress experience, and we're trying to find desperately a release, and we're not even aware of that we're doing it because of, all that stored emotional baggage, really, yeah, that gets trapped within us. Because oftentimes it's not only the stress and the overwhelm, where there's stress and feeling overwhelmed, we oftentimes also feel frustration and anger and the anxiety. Yeah, so there's usually a cocktail, a wild cocktail of all sorts of different feelings, which makes it so overwhelming to deal with, which makes it so far removed from feeling at ease and peace and just grounded and centered. So that's the first step, and it doesn't take a lot of, you don't have to meditate on that for hours and hours. It just really actually takes one moment in time, breathing in, breathing out. Okay, this is how I feel, and that's okay. I give myself permission to feel like that. I don't have to like it. I don't have to feed even more into it. I just need to acknowledge that. Yeah. And that's the first step towards being, more honest to yourself and actually really honoring yourself that, that is your experience, as opposed to denying what's happening. And oftentimes, I've experienced that with myself, and also with the people I work with, that step already can relieve so much. Yeah. And that doesn't mean, all the problems are being solved or all the to-dos on your list are being done. It's just about getting you into a different state of being, into a more, less up here, heightened, and overwhelmed, more like, okay, that's what it is, and that's okay. And then another part to that is, and that's more a long-term type of process or work, is, okay, I recognize there's a pattern maybe, or a certain tendency for me to, in certain situations, to feel overwhelmed and stressed, and to then make that choice. Well, I'm gonna start gently exploring that. Why is that? What are the beliefs, the underlying beliefs and associated feelings that keep me stuck in that stress, feeling overwhelmed spiral? So that has a lot to do with our, thoughts and unhelpful, basically, thoughts and beliefs that hold us back, or that keep us stuck in this cortisol overproduction fight flight response, or more so reaction, actually. Yeah. So I mentioned a few. It's, for example, a belief like, I I can't relax until everything is done in a certain way, or if I don't worry about things, I don't. It feels like I don't care. Yeah. Or things have to be perfect all the time. Or I can't show weakness. And acknowledging how I feel means being weak. Yeah, acknowledge even to myself, acknowledging how I feel means being weak. So there's all sorts of different, beliefs that are partly known to us, and to some extent we don't even know that we actually entertain these within us, because they're like on autopilot within us, and oftentimes we have picked these up a long, long time ago, yeah, throughout childhood. Oftentimes when we trace it back, it goes back to what we have learned and picked up over the course of our childhood, by observing how our caregivers, for example, would deal with life. And that we took that on, and that got imprinted into our awareness, basically, or more so into our subconscious. And that's worthwhile like I said, in a gentle, ongoing process to explore, because these are the so-called hurdles and blockages that hold us back from actually tapping into a different way, into a more easeful or peaceful way of being, or relaxed way of being. And it's ongoing because, it's a journey of unraveling, and we all keep expanding, and it's not really I'm going to do that now, I'm going to fix it, and it's done. It's an ongoing journey because we are complex beings, and that is okay too. And yeah, we may take a turn and feel like, yeah, I got it all sorted now, and then the next turn comes along the corner, and we yet to discover something new, a new facet, an aspect of ourselves, and that's also what makes life so colorful, basically, and deep as well. Yeah, and what also takes us into our own depth more. But of course, it requires some willingness, and also willingness to do it, and willingness to become more okay with our own inner vulnerability. Yeah, and again, we may have picked up that being vulnerable is weak, equals weak, and then it may make us feel more anxious to actually go there. It may not feel safe within us. And there are different tools how you can do that, and over the course of these Awareness Mondays, I will be tapping into some of these tools, just to name a few: EFT, emotional freedom techniques, which is meridian tapping, and working with certain, affirmations to clear some of these beliefs or feelings. More so the feelings actually that are associated with these beliefs can be one thing to tap into that, or working with someone, a counselor, psychologist, a coach, and explore these patterns and beliefs in that way. And then, so we had two aspects that I feel are kind of like steps. The first one was acknowledgement and giving yourself permission to feel the way you do. And the second one was an ongoing journey of exploring what are my blockages and hurdles to actually really tap into relaxation mode. What holds me back? What stories do I tell myself to, that stop me or prevent me from exhaling, taking a long exhalation. And then the third aspect that I think is really worthwhile tuning into is, I want to call it authentic authentic self-care as a priority. So what I've been noticing lately within my own stress management journey, because there's this myth when we work in this capacity as a healer or as a psychologist, we have it all nailed down. But let me tell you, no, this is not really the case. We're all on this journey, and we all keep learning, like everyone else, I take my turns, and sometimes left and sometimes right, and not always it works out exactly in that peaceful, easeful way that I wanted to, But what I've been noticing lately is a very important self-care tool for myself, for me, is to have something on my daily menu just before I step into any sort of having to do things. So before I check any email or phone call or even, messages in the morning, I commit to some sort of self-care, me time / meditation ritual. And that usually is not longer than 10 minutes. For me, it's oftentimes a tapping meditation, where I would tap on a certain topic, either, something that's a specific topic to myself, or, there's scripts available as well, for, morning stress relief, for example, or tapping into self-love or self-compassion. The options are infinite, and that's just only something I do. You might do something else. For you, it might be your cup of tea in silence without the kids and the family around for 5 minutes or 10, But that's what I noticed makes a huge difference for the flow of my day. If I have this time to myself, and if it's only 10 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever feels good for you, and then it feels to me like, okay, an important acknowledgement of self-care is ticked already. I've done something for myself. I've honored myself. I've respected myself and my needs, and that feels good, and it really makes a difference for, in terms of how motivated I feel, and eager, actually, also how inspired and eager and motivated I feel to start my day. And again, that is, for some of us, or for many of us, also a journey of exploration, because our needs change over the course of our lives, and also within a week or within a monthly cycle, our needs change. Sometimes it may be yoga for you, and sometimes it may just be sitting, like I said before, in silence, somewhere outside in nature, But more and more, actually making this whole topic of self-care really a priority. And again, with this, I mean, it always starts with acknowledging and exploring. Well, what actually are my needs? Do I actually have a connection to them? And it's a very, very complex topic, or huge topic, basically, because we can delve into so many different needs. There is physical needs, emotional needs, mental needs, spiritual needs, just only to name a few. And in each category you can delve into and explore what does that actually mean for me. And if you're now sitting here and saying, well, I don't actually know what my mental needs are, well, that's great, because that gives you an indication. Okay, I didn't even know that this existed, but that's definitely something that I can tune myself into and learn more about. Yeah. So not getting too frustrated with ourselves or impatient or critical when we don't know something. Um, because not knowing something also means, okay, that's okay. There's actually an area here for me to explore. There's something that I can look at and slowly, in my own pace and time, approach. Yeah. So I want to finish today with a beautiful quote that on a regular basis also reminds me to get back into, well, I call it mode, relaxation or ease mode. And that is, it's a Chinese proverb. It goes, tension is who you think you should be. Relaxation is who you are. And I think it's a beautiful quote because it says it all, you know. It's really about being okay and, you know, letting go and being okay with all the ups and downs of life. And at the same time, also allowing growth and expansion to unfold in our lives in an easeful, light way. Yeah. If you have any questions or any comments, even beyond the live stream now, let me know. Get in touch with me. And also on Wednesday, this coming Wednesday, you have the option to, or you know, over the course of the next days, basically, you have the opportunity to actually ask some questions, and I will answer them in a video call or in a video as well. So that will be interesting to hear your comments, questions, or anything that comes to mind regarding this topic. And yeah, let us know how you go with your journey towards a more easeful you. Thank you so much for listening. I'll be back next Monday for the next live stream, and we will release the topic over the course of this week for the next Awareness Monday. Have a lovely, lovely rest of the Monday. I'm just noticing the time. So I was meant to talk actually 15 to 20 minutes. It's a little bit longer now, but that's okay. Kind of like thought that might happen. So you can watch it again. We're gonna post the video. So yeah, stay tuned. Thank you so much.